Hey, what's up guys? This is 3D Bonfire back with an amazing tutorial. My name is Markus and I would like to show you how to do these dynamic water droplets. So you can see there is a lot of stuff going on. So we have a squash and stretch behavior of this main liquid droplets. Also we have a rain setup in the background, and also we have some beautiful retiming of the scene. So we go from 100% to some slow motion action here. So this is a beautiful technique and I would like to show you how to do it. Let's get started. Alright guys, so before we really get started in Cinema 4D, I have to admit I was just using the content repository from Insidium to learn and study pre-made scene files, so this is a great place if you are a little bit more advanced and you know how to dissect a complex X-particle setup step by step. For beginners, this is maybe not the easiest place to learn the foundations of X particles. So they could feel a little bit overstrained if there are like 10 or 20 X particle objects, and yeah, you just don't get your head around where to start. So this is why I just wanted to help you with the dynamic water drops. Of course, you can just download the scene file here. It is set up for the Cycles renderer, but we want to work with Octane. So I was studying the scene file and tried to dissect it step by step and give you an easy walkthrough. So yeah, I think this could be beneficial for beginners, but advanced users they just can go with the scene file here, and I think they will also understand it. But for beginners, this is the right tutorial. So let's get started in Cinema 4D. Alright guys, so we are in a brand new scene in Cinema 4D. And what am I doing here? So why don't I just grab plane? This seems to be a really good start because we need a collider for our rain. I work with 6 meters, which is more space than we really need. I think the scene is interesting if it is angled a little bit, the floor, so water can go down here. It is not just coming down in a 90 degrees angle. And before I go too deep into the scene, I have to apologize because in the last YouTube video I was asking you for what do you want to see next. Sorry, I couldn't do that right now because I was just learning new stuff and I felt excited about this technique, and I thought this is also a good share with you guys, so bear with me. This time we learn something else, but maybe next time we'll learn something of the old stuff. So let's continue here. I think the bounce with 40 is too high, so we don't want to have the water go too much up and down, bounce like it's crazy. So I would say 20 is more than enough here. We want to work with more friction because water shouldn't pour down too fast, so a friction of 50, maybe with a variation of 20 and some scattering. This is just some randomness to be not too mathematical correct here. So this is just mixing it up a little bit. So this is a good start. We already have a collider for our rain. Next, I would say, what are we going to do next? All right, I think we should do some scene preparation. So of course we need a camera. I would say we put it in a null object. So we have a null in the center, put a camera into it. And when you watch through it, you can easily do something like this, right? So wherever your camera is, go to your null and go to your null and you can rotate around the center. So this is super helpful. So we have a little simple camera rig here. Of course we need some light. Most of the time I work with HDRIs, but I think this time we could just use some discs and use them as our light source. So I will create a disk here, and maybe this could even be much higher, much bigger. We'll just go down out of the line shading, so you can see this can be really huge. I already have a luminant material here, so you can see it's just in the luminance, but maybe we convert to an octane material later. So this is one of our light sources or reflectors, I would say. Angle it a little bit to our scene. Maybe we use another one. and go to your, I just switch the world axis mode, so I can just move it in this axis, go back here, rotate it, and I think this is already what we want. So maybe just to have some variance in it, I make this one smaller, and why don't we just put a hole in it? Could be also cool in the reflections. Alright, so we have our lights, our cameras, and I would think the last thing we should do is Control D. So let's see, is it the right? Yeah, Control D is for project settings. Go to X particles, and I already switched it to 4 substeps. Should be default is 1. Put it to 4, so we have more accurate collisions and you don't lose so much particles which will fall through the floor, and you would have to build a kill object here to kill them, lose a lot of particles. So just put it to 4 and you don't have problems with this one. Alright guys, so we prepared everything for success here. We have some lights, we have a camera, and we have a scene to work with. Some setup, some stage, I would call this. So next, I don't know what to do next. Maybe we could start with an emitter. So this emitter, we already can call this one rain. And I think, yeah, this is an essential part of this tutorial. So yes, so I think this one could be a little bit bigger. Let's put it to 700. And if you didn't recognize, I increased the scale of our plane here to 10 by 10 meters. So the scene is big enough. Alright, so we have some acid rain here. I'm not totally convinced about it, so why don't we improve it? I think first of all we shouldn't work with a speed parameter here. This is just artificial. I think what we should do is work with modifiers. So give it some physical background in your scene. I would say we need some gravity. Already we have some beautiful acceleration here, but I think this is a little bit too intense, so put it to 700. And I think also we should put some, let me think about it, some wind. Some wind would be perfect. So we don't want this one to happen here, so make it a little bit stronger. That's already good. Why don't we just move the plane a little bit so it collides more or less in the center? So I'm satisfied with the wind and the gravity, but of course you can't work in X particles without turbulence. So let's see what is happening here. Just increase this like crazy so you get a better feedback here. What would be the right scaling? I would say put it a little bit higher and put this one lower. This seems to be a good turbulence for me, just something subtle. And just to get a better visual feedback, I would say we should put our display to lines. So this is like a water droplet in motion. Put it to lines. Feels already more aggressive and believable. And I would say I just want to color them by a gradient parameter. Blue to white feels totally fitting for rain, but I think I want to increase this to invert them. So let me think about it. What do I want to achieve here? I think I want to put this to the radius. So let me tell you about my thought process. So I think not all water droplets should move in the same speed. So how can I control this one? I think water droplets have different sizes, and I think depending on the size, parameters like gravity and wind will have a different effect on it. So smaller water droplets will move slower. Faster will be the larger ones. So I think first we should work with different radii. So water droplets are really small, so I start with a radius of 0.17 and give them a variation of 0.13. So when you do the math right, the biggest particle will be 0.3 and the smallest one will be 0.04. So this is our range in the radius. And I just want to give me a visual representation of this, so I think I put this one to the radius, and I say the smallest one is 0.04, as we did the math correctly, and the biggest one will be 0.3. So now, let me think about it. So this is not the correct representation I wanted to achieve, because first, we need something like, I would say we need something like a speed modifier. And we don't want to give them some initial speed. We just want to control their maximum speed value. And we want to control this one depending on the radii we just gave this emitter particles. So this is a good reason to use something like mapping. We just add a mapping here, and I would say the particle speed maximum, so this is this value we want to control, will be transferred on the particles depending on their radii. And as we did the math correctly, I would say this would be our numbers. Smallest particle, biggest particle. And now, if we play back, this should be a better representation of what we want to achieve. So you can see the smallest particle with the smallest radii, they will have less speed, and the biggest ones, they will have the maximum speed, like this value. So this already feels like a quite beautiful rain, like some sparse rain. So I would say we want to have way more particles. How about 10,000? This is totally working for me. So I think for the rain so far, I'm quite convinced about it. So this is working quite beautiful. Now I would say we need to think about the splashes. So maybe for speed's sake, because my system is not so powerful right now, I just put it to 3000. This is more than enough, so we can work next on the splashes. Alright, see you in the next setup. Alright, I think it is time for some spawning here. So you can see this is not exactly what you want, so it's just a particle colliding and going over the floor, but we want the particle to split up into smaller particles and kill the original particle at collision. So how can we do it? You can see I already selected it. So you go to your collider tag and you can trigger some actions. So for example, you can enable spawn at collision and just create a spawn emitter here. Let's just call it splash. And I think this is almost done. We just switch this one to collision point is perfect. Face normal, this is also great. So it's just the normal direction here. And I already switched the spread to 100 because when you have it on 0, this is a little bit boring, right? So put it to 100 and you get more diversity in the angles. So let's see this one. This is way better. And to get a better visual representation, I would say we go to the splash emitter, go to display, and also change this one to lines. Maybe give it a white color, so this is more pleasing for the eye. Yes, I like this one. The particle parameters, I would say they shouldn't live forever. So let's give it something like 12 and 5 for their lifespan. The speed, I also want to vary it a little bit, and the particles shouldn't be that big. So maybe something like, maybe just change it to 1.5. So they are smaller than the initial particles because the initial particle is split up into smaller ones. Let's check it once again. And I just think this is it. So this is beautiful for the splashes. let's go on to the retiming, I would say. So next, we don't want to have the particles all the time at 100%. So I will show you how to do some retiming for your particles here. Alright, there's one last thing we should do before we retime the simulation. And I think it would be to set an initial state. So we don't always want to wait 60 frames until the rain hits the floor. The easiest thing would be to set an initial state. So go to your emitter objects and just set it. So now, right from the start, the rain is colliding with the floor. That's perfect. Alright, so the retiming would take some consideration, but I'm pretty sure what I want to happen here. So I know I will have some bigger particles, like maybe a little bit too big, some big main water droplets, and they will collide, squash and stretch in a soft body behavior and go up. And I want the retiming to the time to slow down here and then go up again. Or maybe just keep the reduced time from here on. So I will say this will happen at frame 15, and there I will slow down the time. So how can I do it? I just go to my emitter, to the emission, sorry, to the object, to the emitter, and you can see here is a retiming parameter. So I just say maybe it happens at frame 10 from 100 and go to frame 15 and put it to 20. So what happens here? You can see this rain is slowing down, but the splashes, they will just continue with 100%. So that's not really believable. So we should also go to the splashes emitter, set one frame here to 100 and go to 20. Now we should have a beautiful slowing down of the time. Yeah, that's beautiful. Alright, so now we have some beautiful retiming and we can continue with our main objects here. That will collide, squash and stretch and get to a big fluid blob. So let's see how to do this one. Alright guys, so now we need our main objects, and one sphere is not enough, so we need some objects that we can melt together in some beautiful liquid blob here, giving them some behavior that they melt together, and therefore we need a couple of objects, right? So we want something to melt together. So this is just an artistic part here, so you grab a couple of spheres. Of course you can do it with other objects, but I just want to have some droplets. So maybe one more there. Oh, that was a mistake. Go back, duplicate it again. To duplicate it, I just hold down Control or STRG. Okay. Just be a little bit artistic here. Oh, just wasn't precise with my keyboard. So yes, this is looking good. Maybe a couple of smaller ones. So again, so you need to hold down STRG, let the mouse go, and then let the button go. Otherwise you can't duplicate them. Alright, I think this could be a nice pattern. Maybe one more here, and something like this could work beautiful. So I think a better subdivision pattern would be to put it to icosahedron, and now we just put it into a null. Call this one maybe something like soft bodies, and for now, just to have a better overview, I would say get rid of the splash and the rain and get a dynamics tag on the soft bodies. So initially when you press play, nothing will happen. I guess. So maybe first the collisions, the soft bodies, or however you want to call it, the dynamics, will be calculated particle based. So a good idea is to add an emitter here and call this one dynamics. No, can't spell dynamics. All right, that's better. So you can see particles. Oh, I can't see them. Okay. Can I see them now? No. Actually, there should be particles that will be generated on the points of these spheres, plus on the mid, because this is more precise. I think I need to set it to include children, because this is a hierarchy. I guess now we will get our particles. All right, you can see it. So these particles will help us with the collisions. Okay, what I already can recognize, the wind has a strong effect on these particles. So there is a diagonal movement, but I think we don't really want that. So let me go to my dynamics, to the modifiers, exclude, and I say we don't need wind, nor do we need turbulence or the speed modifier. Now we only have gravity working on them. But what's happening here, I mean, could be an interesting animation. I don't even know what's happening here. It has to do with the collisions, okay? So the system is a little bit confused how we set it up. So I think to have a clear understanding for make it easy for the dynamics to work, we just duplicate the floor, call this one dynamics. Spelling is not my strongest part, so we have one separate object for the dynamics. This just makes it easier for the system to read. So I would say on this one, we just include the dynamic particles, and on the other ones, we just include the spawn and the rain. Also, you have to be careful. So for the new floor, we don't want to spawn additional particles. So that doesn't make sense. So now, maybe, I hope so, we fix this collision. That's better. That is way better. But you can see these particles, they collide with each other. So that is a very weak dynamic simulation, I would say. So let's be a little bit more precise here. So I think what we should do is to play with these settings. So first, the calculation radius is way too big around these particles. To have it more precise, I just go down to 1 centimeter. And the rigidity is how massive this object is, how soft. So when I put it down to, for example, 1.5, which is a good value for us to have this soft body dynamic behavior, yeah, this is way better and not so rigid anymore. Also, to have them collide with each other, we should activate push. And we don't want to have 50% accurate collisions, but we want to have 100% accuracy here. Now they bounce off from each other, but we introduce some other, I would say, some inaccuracy here. So how can we get rid of this one? I mean, it's interesting, but it doesn't help us. So I think, therefore, we should play with the constraints. So these are, I guess, how I understand it, some initial constraints that keep the distance between particles and overall calculate the dynamics. So when we go down with the structural constraints to something, for example, like 70, maybe we can fix this issue. We introduce some other issues. maybe for now just make this invisible. So this is looking really bad. So it seems like they don't have enough pressure to hold up to their initial shape. So therefore I would say I go back here and put in some pressure. Let's see. All right. I think this looks better than it is. Worse. Better, that's not the right word. So this looks worse than it really is, because I think this is a super nice simulation here. Wow, I think I'm quite pleased with this one. So of course you get some squashing and stretching, but this is only for a couple of frames. Then it blows up again. So I think this is a super beautiful pattern. We can work with this one, definitely. Let's put it to 11, just to be a little bit nitty-picky about it. All right, so doesn't make much of a difference, right? But these values are great. Okay. Next, I think we should go over to the OpenVDB and mesh this together into one big blob. Alright, so I would go to the generators and OpenVDB mesher. Inside of it, we should just drag as a source our soft bodies. Bam, this looks ugly, but so we have a new object here. Now you could make these ones invisible and you have a beautiful object. So now they melt together, and let me see this once again. Okay, it looks a little bit not so smooth here, but we can smooth this later. So go back here. Let's see. How does voxel size of 2 look? I even think we don't have to go that low. So 4 will give us a smoother feedback. And of course you can try to push these values as far as you want, but I'm already pleased with this one. So I just try some filter. Go with the standard medium. Gaussian is a little bit more extreme. So this is a stronger effect. Of course you can play with the iterations, make it even stronger, but I think for me this medium is working. Median works quite well. Okay, so I have to say I'm already pleased with this one. Now we have another issue. So I think this animation is a little bit boring. So they just fall, accelerate and collide with the floor. But we want some more brutal, more strong squash and stretch effect there. Therefore, I would say I just go to my dynamics tag and play with the initial velocity. And I think we want some force down the y-axis. So why don't we just play with this value, give it some strength here. And now they will have some force, better effect there. And plus, this is almost working with our retiming. So we retimed it from, oh, maybe I just shifted this one. I don't know what we initially set it up here. I think it was from 10 to 15, right? So I'm sorry, this one got a little bit shifted. So of course you can always change your retiming, but we worked with something like this when I remember it correctly. So, and you can see our spheres will collide here around, let me just check it once again. Yeah, so this seems to be a decent time to go back to a slower speed, but maybe I just stretch this a little bit and shift it a little bit, so I feel more comfortable with. Now they collide. Okay, now they collide. Now the retiming is happening. So I'm sure I make sure just I select both of these ones where we did the retiming and just set it to another time here, another frame there. So this seems to be a good value. Yes, that's awesome. So I think we should also go to the retiming to the first frame of these ones. So you can see we have this at 100, and I guess we should also retime our dynamics here. So put it to 100, go to frame 20. There we set it to a retiming of 20. So go to the dynamics and also set this one to 20. Now I think everything should be in sync with the retiming, and when I activated these ones again and think it is time to cache the scene, set a folder for it and cache it, and we will see us in a minute. Alright, the scene is cached, so let's have a look on it. Look at it, I mean. Alright, so yeah, this is what we wanted. Okay, so we have some slowdown here, some nice, I always say bullet time because I like Matrix the movie. So full speed, slow down, we can enjoy this one, and it's amazing. So I just cut my timeline. I worked with 150, but you don't really need so much frames, so I think this is beautiful. So of course you can push this way further, so I didn't have it in such a big resolution, but obviously, to be honest, this is going so fast. You don't really need to worry about edges like this one or something like this. Yeah, you just don't recognize it. So when I play it back, yeah, I mean, no, for me this is not a problem. And maybe just a quick fix here. Let me see what is happening when I put OpenVDB into, oh, you can see I didn't even activate the filters. I think I activated and then I deactivated it again. So I don't need a subdivision surface. I think I just need some filtering here. So let me just recache this once more. Deactivated this one and use the filter so you can see the filter is smoothing it. So give me just a second and I will be back. Alright, I just recached it. And yeah, I think this is a little bit more smooth. I like it better. Of course, you can even try to give it more initial velocity to squash it even more, or play with the rigidity to make them even flatter and don't hold so much up to their shape. But for me, this is good enough. And why don't we continue with the shading fast so you have a nice render for your Instagram. Alright, let me just quickly set this up. So first I would open my live viewer, put it maybe here, give me some more screen estate. So, alright, so let me see. Can I even render something right now? Okay, so almost there, but not 100%. So maybe we just go into our camera and set it up to something for Instagram. Maybe put it to 1080 by 1080. I just like to lock my view. Let's see, how big is it? Put it to 1.65. Alright, so we have the borders here. Instantly go to physical, to path tracing, and put this one to a decent number. Something like that. Alright, so we should also put our environment to black. Let me calculate it again. Alright, so we can't see anything. Maybe now it is time to grab something like diffuse, get rid of this one, and do some illuminated materials. So I just put it to surface brightness, go to our disks, voila. So these ones, I just go out of the camera, they will illuminate our scene like crazy, right? Okay, they are super huge. Maybe it is also time to put Octane tag on the camera. And I think we can also go to the Octane tags here and make the invisible for the camera, set it to invisible. So this is already better. I think I also want a diffuse material on the floor. Quickly switch this one to something glossy, and I think it could be way darker. So let me try this one. Put it to the floor. Oh, the floor dynamics. We only need to see one floor, so, and one material here. So this is already better. I think we can also put in some roughness. That's nice. I think am I satisfied with this one? Maybe what happens when I just reduce this a little bit? So this is better for me. All right, and I look already for a nice camera angle. So something like this maybe. Have it more in the center. Maybe angle it even more. So something like this could work. Just want to see my borders. All right. So this is okay. Maybe it is time to get some beautiful shading. So put a specular on our soft bodies, on the OpenVDB mesher. And you already can see this reflecting disks. Maybe I also put them into a null, press Alt G, and where is it? Oh, okay, maybe I just rotate them a little bit. Let's see if this is more interesting. Oh, okay, I think this is more interesting. In our specular shader, so I'm working in an older Octane version, but it should be almost the same in newer versions. You can go to the dispersion and just play with it. I think some arbitrary value works for me. I go up with the roughness a little bit too much. Maybe even less. Alright, I mean, maybe I just rotate this null object with my disks in it a little bit more. So let me just see what I get. Yeah, so this is asking for you to play with it to get the reflectance you prefer. I think already this is quite beautiful. I already go into my Octane settings, and no, I think this is good enough. Maybe we could go into the, already set it up to Octane, go into the Octane renderer, render passes, activate the denoise, and in the camera, go to emitter, enable camera emitter, AI denoiser, and enable the denoise pass. I just wanted to see a clear image. So this is without denoising, this is with it. Of course it is blurring it a little bit, but in the rendering you could go up with your samples, or maybe whatever you need to get a clear image. Alright, so this is looking okay. Just put it there. Alright, so I think we also should show the rain, okay? Because this feels totally empty. So let's go to the rain and put on it Octane object tag. Go to particle rendering and set it to geometry. Okay. Maybe we can do the same for the splashes. Alright, so we have some particles here. I think we create another specular, put it, oh, I'm sorry. Let's just create a sphere. So this is a placeholder, or, I mean, this will be our rain particles. I just hide it here, put it to a size of maybe 2, and tell these ones in the particle rendered geometry, use this sphere as rendered geometry. So put it in there and put a specular on this one. Let's call this one raindrop. Almost there. So what we really lagging here is some, I would say, some depth of field. So get rid of the autofocus, grab your focus picker and click on your main object. This will give you the right focal depth. And now play with the aperture. So 10, yeah, this is already giving you a beautiful image. And now we have some blurred raindrops around us. I have to admit, maybe I made a mistake here with the emitter. Alright. So, no, sorry, the rain. Go to the emission. Alright, I just cast 10, like 3000, which is really not enough. Put this one to 15,000 and you would have a way better scene, more beautiful raindrops there. So maybe I just deactivate the cache on this one and recache it with 15,000. So give me a second. I just continue. And now this will be recached. Oh, this is super fast. Okay, just give it a second. Maybe now we will have more raindrops. I'm not sure. I think it should be more. Maybe something went wrong, but we don't care so much about this one. So let me just see. I should have way more raindrops. Okay. Still, it feels a little bit empty. I mean, it's okay. So maybe we just make this raindrop a little bit bigger. Put it to 5. Just angle the camera a little bit here. This is already okay for me. So look at this beautiful oil film dispersion. Some beautiful raindrops. I guess the floor is a little bit too dull. Get back with the reflections. Yes, more beautiful here. Alright, so look how beautiful is this looking. So when they connect, this is a really nice effect in the rendering. And I think we are almost there. So now you maybe tweak your render settings a little bit. So for me, this is only 5 seconds and I can see the image is quite noisy. So I guess I could go up with the samples or just use the denoise pass here. Oh, that was stupid. I was in the focus picker. So focus pick my main object again, get out of it. And now you can select your main pass and your denoise pass. Yeah, I mean, everything left to do would be to render your image out and make a movie of it. So I think this tutorial is at the end, and yeah, it's a strong technique, right? Hope you liked this one. See you next time. One last thing, if you want to support me, you can go to patreon.com/3dbonfire, and there for only $5 a month you can support my YouTube training. Plus you will get some of my scene files, you will get the good feeling of supporting me, and there will be bonus lessons on Patreon. So maybe this is something for you, or you just want to say thanks Markus, then you could become a Patreon. Also on Instagram, my name is Markus 3D, and you can follow me there to see some of these ideas always translate into tutorials. For example, this time it was this one. Maybe I will also teach this one. I'm not sure about it. So yeah, consider to follow me also on Instagram. Alright guys, this is it. So see you next time. Goodbye.